Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome to day 27 of Vlogmas. Today I'm starting a part 1 of 3 videos all about the series that I have been reading in 2019. Today's video are all the series that I have completed in 2019. Tomorrow's will be the ones that I caught up on or I'm up to date with. The final video in the series will be the series that I started in 2019. I have to tell you, having read over 365 books at this point in the year, it's a lot of books to go through and there are a lot of series in here, and I made copious notes and I'm going to be referring to them. I was going to pull the books off my shelf, the ones that I still have, but I realized that would actually be about half my shelf at the moment. So instead, I'm going to spend more time in post-production and adding book covers for you rather than trying to pull everything off my shelves, because it would take me a good half an hour to pull everything off and then probably an hour and a half to put everything back. So we're going to go with it. I'm going to go through the duologies, the trilogies, and the series that I completed this year. It's not a bad list, I have to say. I'm actually quite pleased to have wrapped up so many things. I'm a little bit nervous for when I come to the started series because that is the longest section. So I completed 6 duologies in 2019. The first one is the Hive and Rogue series by AJ Betts. This is a Love Oz YA science fiction dystopian story, and it was really, really fabulous and very different to anything that I had read in the Love Oz YA dystopian sort of genre. I also completed the Wild Robot duology, The Wild Robot and The Wild Robot Escapes by Peter Brown. This is a middle grade science fiction series about a robot who washes up on an island and befriends the animals on the island, and it's her adventures. I read the Rune Marks duology, Rune Marks and Runelight by Joanne M. Harris. I mean, technically there are 3 books in this because the Gospel of Loki is sort of a prequel to it, but you don't have to have read that to read the actual duology. And this is a Norse mythology inspired fantasy story. I completed the Warcross duology by Marie Lu. So this year I did read Wildcard, which was the conclusion, and I enjoyed it. It was just a fun young adult science fiction gaming story. I mean, it's not overly complicated, but it was enjoyable. I completed Lynette Noni's Whisper duology. So last year I read Whisper, but this year I completed the series with Weapon. And again, Love Oz YA sci-fi dystopian style story with characters who have special abilities like X-Men, and it was just fun and entertaining, and the ending was not what I expected. I've also most recently completed The Dark Vault by Victoria Schwab, which is the bind-up of The Archive and the Archived and the Unbound, which is a young adult urban fantasy duology set in a world where when you die, your memories are encased in a body that looks just like yours and are archived. And our main character is a keeper, and her job is to stop the histories, which are the dead memories of the person, from escaping from the archive. Now we come to the trilogies that I completed in 2019. I've completed 12 of them. The first one is Annabeth Albert's Frozen Hearts series, which includes Arctic Sun, Arctic Wild and Arctic Heat. These are Mau Mau romances set in Alaska. I completed the Detective Gemma Woodstock trilogy by Sarah Bailey. The 3rd book came out this year. Sarah Bailey is an Australian crime author. These were really fun with a very flawed female protagonist who is also a police detective, and I immensely enjoyed the last book in the series. I completed the Red Rising trilogy, the first 3 books by Pierce Brown. I'm not going to be continuing the series, so I'm considering myself complete with this particular story arc. I read the Nolan Knights trilogy by Theo DeSalle. This includes The King of Bourbon Street, The Queen of Delphine Street, and The Lady of Royale Street. These are romance books set in New Orleans, and they are just delightfully fun and entertaining. I completed the Caraval trilogy by Stephanie Garber, so this year finale came out. I actually reread the entire series before finale came out, so I actually did read all 3 books this year. I have a lot of love for this series. I know it's not the most popular, and I know that people have differing opinions on it, but I really enjoy it for what it is, which is just a really fun young adult fantasy read. And I'm saying enjoyed a lot because I pick books that I really like, and if I'm going to continue a series to the end, it's probably something that I've enjoyed. I completed the Lady Helen series by Alison Goodman. So the first book was Lady Helen and the Dark Days Club, then there was Lady Helen and the Dark Days Pact, and Lady Helen and the Dark Days Deceit. Great historical fantasy paranormal series by an Australian author for young adults. I completed the Constellation trilogy by Claudia Gray. So the first book was Defy the Stars, then there was Defy the Worlds, and Defy the Fates was the 3rd and final book. Enjoyed this young adult science fiction series. I'm hit and miss with young adult science fiction, but I love Claudia Gray's writing, so this was good fun. I reread the entire Illuminae Files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff this year. I love this series. Love Oz YA science fiction, mixed media, format. I read and listened to the audiobooks for all 3 of these books this year. If you haven't read it, pick it up. I completed The Nevernight Chronicles by J. Christoph. Dark Dawn came out this year, so I read the final book, but the series includes Nevernight, Godscrape, and Dark Dawn, and it is adult fantasy, very violent, very bloody, very gory, and very good. And finally, I completed the Callahans of Stringybark Creek series by Carly Lane. These are women's fiction slash romance books set in country Australia. The first one is The Wrong Callahan, then you have Mr. Right Now, which I read this year, and the final book, Return to Stringybark Creek, came out in December, and I read that and I loved it. Finally, I completed 5 series, so books longer than 3 books this year. The first one, and probably the most insane effort on my part, was Alona Andrews' Kate Daniels series, which I basically binge read the entire series in about 2 weeks, and there's something like 10 books and a whole stack of novellas, and I went through all of them because I could not help myself. The first book is Magic Bites. I actually didn't read this one this year. I read that last year, but I picked up from where I left off, and that was fun. It was a lot of fun. I also read the Arcadia Bell series by Jen Bennett. This I think was 4 books long, and it is another urban fantasy series. I love Jen Bennett's writing. This one has a lot of magic in it and a really great romance. I enjoyed it. I read the Fake Boyfriend series by Eden Finlay. This one was a recent read, so you guys have heard me talk about it recently, and it is a male romance series. Starts with Fake Out, and it is all stories about guys who pretend to be in relationships and then eventually fall for each other. Well, the first 3 books are. The last 2 books in the series are slightly different, but all the books in the series feature the same characters and we get different stories as we go along. You could probably read them as standalones, but I would recommend reading them in order. All the characters are great. I loved them all. I'm actually really glad I found this series this year. I have to say there are 2 short story collections that I haven't read. I'm not counting them as part of the main series. I'm counting the main 5 novels as complete. I completed the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Kerry Maniscalco. These are historical fiction crime books, and they are delightfully fun. The main characters are Audrey Rose and Thomas Creswell, and Thomas Creswell is a precious cinnamon roll who I will love forever. I'm actually looking forward to doing a reread of these books because they were just so fun. I finished the Medoran Chronicles by Lynette Noni. This is a Loveless YA urban fantasy portal doorway sort of series. The final book, Vardasia, came out at the start of the year, but the first book is Kane, and they are just really enjoyable, easy reads. And the final series that I completed in 2019 is the Lockwood & Co series by Jonathan Stroud. Began with The Screaming Staircase. I got onto this series on a recommendation from Leanne from Literary Diversions. I'm so glad that I did. It is one of my all-time favorite middle grade / young adult horror paranormal series, and it was just amazing. So those are all the series that I completed in 2019. There may possibly be some that I finish before the end of the year, but I'm not intending on finishing anything else at the moment, so hopefully this list will be unchanged. In the comments below, let me know what was your favorite series that you finished in 2019, or if you didn't manage to finish any, what's one that you would like to finish in 2020. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day. I will see you tomorrow for my next video and the next installment in this 3 video series, but until then, have a great day, guys.